Hello, and welcome to the Provincial Preschool Autism Service Autism Education Series on the topic of play, exploring play together. The information in this video is meant for families, parents, and caregivers of individuals with autism and provides information and strategies about play. The information in this video is not meant to replace individualized medical assessment or treatment recommendations. If you have concerns about your child, please consult your family doctor, nurse practitioner, or treatment team. My name is Sarah Boyne, and I'm a speech-language pathologist with Hearing and Speech Nova Scotia and the Provincial Autism Service. I would like to start the presentation with a land acknowledgement. Hearing and Speech Nova Scotia is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people for over 13,000 years. As an organization in Mi'kma'ki, focused on serving our community, we commit to working together with Indigenous communities and leaders to co-create a path forward focused on reflection, understanding, awareness, reconciliation, and action that honors the knowledge, wisdom, and strengths of Indigenous peoples and recognizes the historic and present-day harms and trauma experienced by Indigenous peoples. Within this presentation, child with autism, autistic, and autistic child will be used interchangeably. Use of this language is intentional as there is ongoing conversation within the autism community regarding preferences for identity first versus person first language. By interchanging these terms throughout the presentation, the intention is to respect all. I want to start by identifying that we all play. We all play in our lives in different ways, and everyone plays in a way that is individual to each person. Play can be a way that we learn about the world and other people and ourselves. And as a pastime or a way that we enjoy leisure, it gives our lives meaning and purpose. And that is no different for a person who is autistic. Recreation and leisure at any time in our lives are forms of play. Play may involve an engagement with another person, a shared activity that goes back and forth between two or more individuals, but it also may be solitary in nature and may serve a purpose of regulation or a way to recharge, or it may just be that the game or toy or activity is meant or most important for that person to use by themselves. We also, as a society and as humans, may participate in organized play and games. And these are activities with rules that incorporate structure and predictability and understanding of how things operate in our lives. A quote that I placed in the presentation to start us off to think about came from the Olympics in last year, 2022. What we learn from play, we learn for life. And as I indicated at the beginning, play is a lifelong experience that we all will have and important for everyone every step of the way. So play and autism, what it may look like. When you're noticing a child who is playing, who's autistic, they may demonstrate that they're unsure of how to play with a toy or engage with a person. And this may show in many different ways, but there could be some frustration here. There could be disinterest or just watching from afar. Or there may be curiosity, but really difficulty getting started in play and engaging around a shared activity. Um, they may appear to want to be alone in their play, but that may not always be the case. They may also know may also notice that they play in the same way over and over with an activity. It may look repetitive. Um, you may see patterns in how they play, and that may take some real observation to understand um, how and why they're playing with a certain toy or engaging with someone in a certain way. Um, they may play differently with the toy than other people do, and that's fine. That's okay. Um, and that's often an early way of playing is exploring it and figuring out what it does, having some cause and effect on an activity or an object. And as I mentioned previously, they may appear to be staring off or watching the play from afar. Um, Not yet ready to engage, but showing that early curiosity, that noticing that something is going on near them that they may wish to participate in. What may be happening, from what we can see, is that the child needs some time. They need time to warm up. They need some time to process what might be happening and figuring out what their role is or how they are going to be expected or understood to play with an activity or with another person. Um, at this time, maybe playing on their own or playing their way may be more preferable for them, and that is okay. They may need us to be tolerant of them playing differently and then slowly joining in. Um, you may also see that the child or the caregiver or a peer may be exhibiting some frustration in the play because they don't know how to play, or the way they want to play isn't going the way they had hoped or planned. And the child may be showing us some really subtle cues that not everyone would be necessarily picking up on in play. And so noticing those in order to be able to better respond and engage with them is super helpful. At times, the child's attention may be somewhere else. They may be noticing something that we're not picking up on. They may be really interested in one part of the toy or a certain um, section of the activity that is really of interest to them. And if that's the case, it may be hard for them to shift their attention and disengage and re-engage with us. And so we want to be aware of that and make sure that we're noting when that's happening and responding accordingly. And also, we may see cases where the activity or the toy could be too hard for the child, leading again to that frustration or that giving up, where they walk away or they don't try. But also, it could be that what we're doing with them is too easy. And so you again may see disengagement, loss of interest. If they've been playing with the same toy for a really long time over and over again, they may not have that same interest or wanting to engage around it or with another person. I'm going to take a few minutes now just to talk about some different types of play that you may see any child engaging in, and certainly these are not all the types, but this gives a nice summary of an overview of what may be happening at any given point with a child. Um, and I'll try to give some examples of each so that it may resonate more with you around um, how your child is interacting with you or engaging on their own in their play and in their pastime. So with sensory play, what we're referring to more here is play that is stimulating or really firing up some of your child's senses. It may mean that they're experiencing a sound or a rhythm or a taste, a texture, a smell, a color, a pattern, a shape, or movement in their play. And oftentimes these senses are really helpful to pay attention to because it shows us maybe what the child wants to do or what they're interested in. And it also helps us keep the child engaged if we can really capitalize on what they like to do. And that can often come from how they're experiencing um, sensory information in play. Um, an offshoot of that is often what you'll see early on with kids is that they don't necessarily need an object to play with us. They're happy to play with us using their bodies and moving their bodies in space and to music and movement. And we call those routines sensory social routines or people games, where they're moving their bodies to music and engaging maybe in nursery rhymes or finger plays, as well as games that a family might have that are, really specific and original to them and their language and their culture. Um, you know, we all know of little ditties or little activities where there's tickling and laughing and chasing and maybe bouncing and some phrases that are said over and over to get the child's attention and keep them engaged. And those are all super rich times for children to feel um, that they're experiencing play with all of their senses and their bodies. Moving on to physical or motor play, this is more play that is physical in nature. Um, Climbing, running, jumping, riding bicycles, scooter. And here, children are really exploring movement, using their bodies to demonstrate that their bodies are strong. Maybe they're um, using playground equipment at a park or throwing, rolling, squeezing a ball, pulling themselves, pushing on a swing. These are all examples of how they might experience play in more of a physical nature. And then finally here, symbolic play is usually a little further along when a child is starting to use an object to represent something else. So in the picture here, you can see the little person and they're holding a banana up to their ear to symbolize talking on the telephone. Or maybe a child takes a bowl and uses it as a dish, but also they could turn it into a hat or a house for animals. And in symbolic play, children are learning to explore and understand that objects also become part of play and that they can perform different actions on toys, and that these toys can represent different people. Maybe they're using figurines, different places. Maybe, they're building a house or hiding under the bed and different things. Our world is made up of lots of different things, different objects that can represent and symbolize parts of our daily life. Moving on here, exploratory play. At this stage, the child really wants to see what happens with materials and how they can manipulate them, how they can touch them, feel them, build with them. They're, understanding um, what sand feels like, water, mud, snow, and their sense of touch is really a big part of that. Also, um, they're they're understanding what happens when they act upon something. So a bit of cause and effect, and problem solving, also super big part of exploring. When we move on to pretend or fantasy play or dramatic play, this is where a child might try a bit of make believe. They might start to understand what happens when I act something out, and they may take on the role of another person or an animal, and then also understand what objects are involved when they're using them to carry out these roles. They make up little scripts. They might act out something that they've experienced in their real lives already, or something that they've seen on TV, or a movie or something like this. And they might use objects like figurines, animals, dolls, as well as each other to take on those roles. Um, there are several different types of play, including independent, solitary, parallel, associative, cooperative play. And moving to independent or solitary play, children play with toys on their own. And that is also a stage of play where they do not notice or concern themselves really with what other children are doing. And they have their own ideas and plans for, what they want to build, where they want to go, how they want to look at something, or what they want to read, or maybe they're also acting something out that is just in their mind. Um, and here they are, they are occupied on their own, spending their time independently playing. When children are playing parallel to someone else, they are doing a similar activity, as you can see in the picture, the two children painting, alongside their peer, but there's no direct interaction in this type of play. And when a child is engaged in parallel play, it supports their ability to observe and possibly imitate others. With associative play, the child is able to engage in activity where they're more sharing something with someone else. So it might be the playground equipment, climbing together, or the dress up materials or blocks. And the interaction is more regular and supported amongst peers. And here you might see more opportunities for a child to build their language skills. Again, problem solving can be a big part of this type of play, um, and certainly any sort of social interaction or cooperative activity. And then finally, with the last type of play that I'm going to speak about, collaborative play. This is where you'll see children that are working together towards a common goal, a common focus. And the activity or the game or the interaction brings the children together all at once at one time. And this is again another time where social skills and navigating those group dynamics can really come into play. So, why is play important in a child's life? I really hope in the next few slides that you'll gain a better understanding of that if you don't already believe that it is important. Um, Certainly, some takeaways right off the top is that play builds confidence and a sense of achievement for children. They, at very young ages, can have a sense of pride and know that they are able to do things, that they have things that they are proud of, that they like to show others that they're capable of. And play is a time when they can do that. Play is also as I've said at the beginning, a real foundation upon which children can build that social interaction. And it can help them through all the different ways that they play, experience new sights, new sounds, um, new people in their lives, and also they'll learn to play in different places and locations throughout their communities. And finally, it stimulates their bodies and brains so that the learning can really happen. When a child is playing, their their brains and bodies are more stimulated so that they can receive information. The child can use that information and learn from it, and also um, teach others from what they're able to do. So, throughout play and while interacting with others, the child may learn to play with a wider variety of toys and develop plans and ideas for their play. And by sharing toys and taking turns with friends, um, this will also take their play and interaction to another place, because it's an activity that has a social piece and component adopted into it. So when a child is playing, they're learning how to communicate. They're learning how to ask for what they want. They're learning how to comment. Um, they're also possibly going to be asked questions about what they're doing, as well as asking others questions. And they may also, and definitely will be, telling us what they don't want to do in play. So they'll be able to use their protesting skills within what they're able to communicate. Um, Play certainly helps children learn how to build social emotional relationships and navigate the world of people. Um, it helps them problem solve what to do when things don't go as they had planned, how to fix things, how to work around activities that aren't what they expected. Um, we talked about gross motor and physical play, but also children learn how to use their hands, how to use their fingers, how to hold things, press buttons, hold on to pencils, turn pages, point. Um, all these things may be developed through play. With joint attention, we see a lot of examples of how play can support this. A child will reference an object or a person and then share what they're interested in and what they want to show or focus on to another person. And that three-way triangle of attention between a person and an object and another person, and that joint referencing and attention, certainly there's lots of opportunities for that in play. Cause and effect, I've mentioned a few times already, but when children are acting on an object or a person, they learn when they do something, something else happens. When I tickle you, you laugh. When I press that button, maybe I hear a sound. Um, when I speak or communicate, um, maybe you respond. So all these are ways that play can support these different types of situations and scenarios for cause and effect. With imagination and creativity, I somewhat add these together because through imagining and trying new things and pretending and acting out different scenarios, children learn to take risks. They learn to be creative. They learn to understand that what happens in real life can also happen in play, and vice versa, and they learn about the world around them. Um, they also may learn and will learn usually how to imitate someone in play. It's a really early part of engagement, but by copying and doing what someone else does, it may draw their attention to you, and it also may show them that you're interested or learning from what they're doing. Um, Body awareness is certainly a huge part of play. big body movements, balance, your vestibular system, how your body feels. Are you feeling really excited and happy and engaged, or are you feeling more tired and lethargic? Um, all those things can demonstrate in how you engage with a certain object or person while you're playing. Cognitive skills like matching, sorting, colors, visual, spatial patterns, all those children will have lots of opportunities to explore in playtime. And finally, often we'll see early play skills that then later develop into personal independence, like cleaning up or helping or carrying or putting something in the garbage or um, helping to bathe themselves or get dressed or put themselves to bed. So all of these skills can later um, extrapolate on to personal independence skills in their day-to-day lives. So when we're thinking about playing with our child, we want to think of what things could be helpful for playtime and how to set up um, play to be positive experience with our child. Um, when we're starting to play, we want to really keep it simple throughout, really, and limit those distractions. Be prepared at any time to possibly change it up. And certainly, if the first toy or activity doesn't spark the child's interest, that's okay. We're going to have something else to go to and make sure that, we're considering what the child's interested in, where their motivation lies, and take it from there. So, starting out, it may be helpful to show the child how to play. They may not know what to do with a particular toy, or they may not be familiar. But generally, um, we want to start with something that they are more familiar with, or something that we feel that they could be interested in. Um, when you can, or when you feel comfortable, join into the play. If they've started with something that they really enjoy, or they're showing that they're having an interest with, join in too. It may be helpful to have your own of the same toy that they have, so that you don't have to share and they don't have to wait. But overall, you're going to be really gauging how you play based on what they're doing, and play their way. Don't try to change it or add something new too quickly. Just play parallel or join in when you feel comfortable, and follow their lead. Do what they do. Once you've got the play started, to keep it going, it may be helpful to model language so they hear clear, consistent, short words and phrases that could be or should be associated with what they're doing, what they're interested in, where their focus is. And then as you keep playing, to keep them with you so that they don't get bored or disinterested, maybe you're going to add something new, just something small that might um, spark their interest and make them want to try it possibly themselves, and make sure that it's fun, maybe a little silly, um, just to help them understand that it's part of what you're doing, and giving them some other options to keep going with. And then when you're noticing that they're losing interest, or it's time to transition to something new or move on to the next activity, you may start helping them clean up and put it away. Cleanup can be challenging, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but um, you know, if you help and use clear, consistent language, um, it can sometimes help them understand that something else is coming that could be fun, or it's time to move on to another part of the day. Um, when joining in is difficult, or when starting play is difficult, I wanted to um, drill down a little more specifically here with a few more ideas and suggestions. You may find gently leading them in the play, giving some gentle touch or some um, subtle prompting to help and take their hand to try the action. They may just need a little nudge to get going. You'll know best whether your child would tolerate or respond to something like that. Um, Consider what they might find interesting and what they're focusing on, and really keeping that in mind. Again, not changing it up too much. Um, Try to stay positive and helpful, and not get too discouraged right away. And set up, like I said before, set up beside them, maybe play parallel so that they can see what you're doing, because it may be hard for them to focus on themselves and then switch over to what you're doing. So if you have a duplicate of the activity, or you have some pieces and they have some pieces, it can be helpful in that regard. Waiting and pausing, super, super helpful sometimes. If there's a lot going on for the child, or they need the time to process, or they may just need you to wait them out to take a turn, then try that. It can be helpful a lot of the time. Keep up with the enthusiasm, and show it when they do engage, so that they notice, oh, that's that makes, that's a happy time when I participate, or um, maybe this is what I am supposed to be doing. These subtle cues will help with their learning about what to do and play. Overall, take it slowly. Don't rush anything. It's okay if they don't play with the toy in its conventional way, or the way it's meant to be played. And overall, just choose an activity um, that may be new, or from versus familiar, depending on where you see the child's interest. If they're losing interest, then move on to something new. But if they're doing well with something familiar, then maybe stay with it for a little while longer. So to recap, the strategies here, narrating, so using short, clear language when you're playing can be helpful. Imitating or copying what they do to spark their interest or help them learn from you and keep them engaged. Observe where their interests are. Notice what they like to do, and build that into the toy selection, the activities that you participate in, as well as when it's time to vary it up. Try to use things that you've noticed they liked before and just tweak it a little bit. Always try to be down at their level so that they're not looking for you, and also to help you better observe, where their focus is and what they're motivated, and also so they can see your face, and model the language that you're saying, and the actions that you're doing. If you're across the room, you may not keep their attention. If you're across the room, they may not be able to hear you or see what you're doing. Modeling, showing them how to do it, if they're ready and if it's something you find helpful, and following their lead. Do what they do. They can be the leader. They can show you how they want to play, and just join in with that, certainly to start. When it comes time to ending the play, using that clear, consistent language like all done, bye-bye, finished, clean up, can really be helpful, to make sure that the child understands what's coming next. If needed, you may offer choices of a new toy or an activity that's coming if it's hard to say goodbye to a favorite, and participating in cleanup together so that they get that clear sense that something is finished, and something else may be coming. Um, at times of transition, we all need to move on to other parts of our day, so you may need to reduce the fun at the end, and start taking away pieces, or cleaning up a little bit around them, so that the enthusiasm and the parts of the toy that they really enjoy are no longer there or interesting to them anymore. Um, and try to stop the play at a logical time and not end it too suddenly. So, with that preparation, with helping them notice what's going on around them, that things are ending, it's really between what you're saying and what you're doing. Hopefully, the child will understand that it's time to move on to something new. And if you need to, you can use another object to get them to transition on to the next thing. And then finally, as your child grows and as you grow in their enjoyment in playing with toys and games and participating in social routines, um, it may be time to try some new things, just because the child will continue to play for the rest of their lives. Um, it's never a wrong time to possibly add something new. So you may want to add a new play partner, somebody in your family, a sibling, another caregiver or parent, grandparent, daycare teacher. You may want to move the play to a new location. Maybe you take it outside or in a different room in your house or to daycare. All these are changes that the child will um, inevitably grow with. Add new words to how you're playing with a toy or activity so that they start to possibly use those words and understand what they mean. Build in new actions to keep the play fresh and interesting, things that they can imitate, or if they start something new action wise, then copy them back. Bring in a new toy. It may seem a little scary at first, but if you notice something about the previous toy that they like, find something similar, not maybe totally new, and then build on from that. And then finally, build on the activities that you're doing by adding a new person, a new word, a new location, a new action. Um, Maybe take your peekaboo game to hide and seek, or your run and chase to run and chase and tickles. Um, Really, the sky's the limit once your child starts to notice how fun and great play is. They'll become more interested in expanding on their play, and you'll be ready to take it to the next level. I'd like to finish the presentation with a quote from Mr. Rogers, um, who said that play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning, and play is really the work of childhood. Thanks for joining me and watching this video about play. We hope this video has been a helpful learning tool, and please know that the strategies you have learned about in this video will be supported by trained clinicians in real-life scenarios within the Provincial Preschool Autism Service, and we look forward to partnering with you. Thanks.